Hey guys, Delusion here, and I have been getting a ton of requests on how to do recoil control, how I manage my recoil, basically just the all-around go-around of how in the world do I keep my crosshairs so steady, especially in my videos like you've seen in the 103-in-1 game highlights video. So it's actually very simple. It's a few different things that we need to look into, so that's what we're going to cover in this video. The first thing would be your sensitivity, making sure your sensitivity is viable for what you want to do in the game, mostly obviously recoil control in this case, but just general sensitivity issues and things I can go over. I will have a completely separate aim guide, but that's on a different occasion. The second thing would be just making sure like your FOV, if it's changeable, is at a reasonable place where you can control recoil and shoot long, far away targets as well, because it can help in the majority of the cases. And then just the third thing would be practice, repetition, making sure that you're getting all the tips and tricks that I will go over in this video down, so you can go out there and master recoil and own some noobs. So the first thing, and I will be doing a mouse cam, hello mouse cam right here. In the videos that you've seen most of the time, I used the Zowie EC2A. I did recently switch to the Logitech G90, what is this? The G303, because I started playing Overwatch, and it's a little bit better for tracking motions, but the same principles apply. No macros are being used, so I'm going to just go over everything that I know. So we're going to be kind of using a meta setup here. I'm going to redeploy so I can show you that. So it's basically the AEK. This is pretty much the meta setup that you'll see everyone run. It's the Cobra sight, the laser sight. Some people will choose not use the laser sight. It's completely up to them. And then the stubby grip. There's a bunch of different grips that you can use depending on your play style. A lot of the professionals will run the stubby grip. Most of the time. I wouldn't recommend using like the barrel attachment just because it can mess up your spread. So that first tip is sensitivity. So you just want to make sure that your sensitivity is in a good place where you feel comfortable. Personally, I use 800 DPI and 8% in-game. I used to use a little bit lower, around the 7 to 6% scale. I even went as low as 4% once and as high as 10 or 11%. But it just takes a while to figure out what your sensitivity needs to be. Basically, you just want to make sure that you can switch targets, easily. Just very basic target switching. If you can do this and keep it under control, then I would say your sensitivity is okay until you get into the recoil. If you're over adjusting or under adjusting for your recoil, and even though your snaps are good, you may need to lower your sensitivity. So then you can work on your recoil and then go back to that other sensitivity, because it does take a little bit of time to master like the very precise recoil control that we're going to be talking about here. And the other thing that I would recommend if you're going to start doing recoil control is go into gameplay, go into advanced options, and then you want to scroll down to this soldier optics reticle. I think default is somewhere, I'm not even sure, 75 or so, which is just too big. It's too big. If you actually want to see how your recoil is affecting, I would do something in like below 67. Anywhere below 6-7% would probably be okay. I use a really low, something like 57 or 58, just so I can make sure that my target stays on the person I'm firing at and I can see what exact recoil that the gun is shooting. Because back when the game came out, there was visual recoil, but now that there's not, anywhere that your crosshair goes, that is where your recoil is going into effect. So this is an AEK. This is the meta setup. It has a very distinct recoil pattern. It's going to be down to the left to kind of show you that. I can just unload here. So it goes pretty much straight up. It does go a little bit to, to the right. This one's going straight up. It does kind of curve off to the right. They changed it originally when the game came out. It was very much so to the right. I think they adjusted it a little bit to the right now, but it used to be way more so. But basically, it's pretty just straight up, right? So what you want to counter that with is a straight down movement, which is just literally just dragging your mouse down. And for full auto, it is very simple and easy to control. You literally want to make sure that your crosshair is on the target, and then just start dragging down with your mouse. Like if you struggle with recoil at all, if you're using sticks, I don't know if I can help you. This is just for mouse, as why I'm doing a mouse cam. But for sticks, I would just start dragging that stick down when you're shooting at people. I mean, when in doubt, you can always drag down. It's going to help you. Most recoil is going to be down. There's no recoil that goes straight up or straight to the left or straight to the right. It's mostly time going to be down. So if you don't know the recoil of a weapon, start dragging it down and see where it goes. So in this case, it's just mostly down. So full auto, it's literally just drag down. Real simple. Now, the other things that we want to talk about is the random recoil multiplier that you're going to get when you first shoot. So, like, for example, if I just full auto, like this, there's a slight little jump right when I shoot the gun that you'll see right there. A little bit jump right there. That's random recoil, and then there's a multiplier to it. It's different for each gun. It goes from like 1.2x to 2x to like 3.5, depending on which gun you're using. There's a lot of different guns in the game. They all have different ones, and depending on your grip, will also change it. If you're using like the angled grip, for example, it will reduce that first shot recoil multiplier, which is good on certain guns, but most of the time it affects your full auto, so you don't want to use the angled grip. Go with stubby, especially on ARs. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here, but essentially there's that first little jump. This is what is the hardest to counter in the game or to get used to, because, for example, if you're in a really, really long firefight, let's say I'm shooting this guy way over here, and I'm just doing this, there's a good point, even though I'm just using 2 bullets, where that one bullet is going to go above his head, so I'm only going to hit like 1 bullet. You know, at close range, it doesn't really make much of a difference. You know, if you're right here and there's that first shot, it's, you know, you're still going to hit your target even though there's a recoil. You're like, oh, I may even get a headshot. Well, it's actually better just to make sure that you're controlling it perfectly, so that's what I'm going to go over. So, what you want to do, you want to line up. I always shoot for the chest because of the consistency of this game and its hitboxes. It's not necessarily viable to go for the head in most cases, unless you're using like a sniper or DMR or Magnum, anything like a one-shot or do tons of damage in the head. But most of the time, I'm aiming for the chest, most of the time. It's just more consistent, more bullets, it's spread deviation. There's a lot of reasons to go for the chest, but this is one of them. So if you got your full auto spray down, and you kind of mastered that, it just kind of just takes time. The first shot recoil multiplier, this is what you do to counter it. You make sure your crosshair is lined up. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see there. You make sure your crosshair is lined up, and then essentially those first 2 shots are going to have more recoil than the rest of your magazine. So you want to go off what the crosshair is basically telling you. So you ADS, and you know it's going to kick up. You know it's going to happen. So what you do is you just drag down the first 2 bullets harder than you will for the rest of the magazine. So you just do that. See, my crosshair didn't really move at all because I was moving my mouse a little bit faster for those first 2 bullets than it was for the magazine. And if you're just getting the practice of just doing this over and over and over again, it will literally become secondhand nature to you with the gun, maybe after 200 kills. You know, you just you drag it down more so the first time than the rest of the time. And you get used to the feel, and sometimes, you know, you'll overcompensate, and sometimes you'll undercompensate, and you just got to get a feel for it. It's a rhythm, it's a pattern to it. The second thing that is necessarily special about shooting and making sure your recoil is perfect is when there's bursting involved, because there is a lot of bursting in this entire game. So you want to kind of combine your first shot recoil multiplier and the way that you're dragging down your mouse with your burst timing. Now, burst timing is basically you shoot 5 bullets, shoot another 5 bullets, shoot another 5 bullets. It's just basically making sure that your bullets are accurate, they're going in the right place. Again, this is different on each gun, and different attachments make a huge difference on this. That's why I said full auto recoil control is extremely easy. It's when you combine bursting with it, which combines that first shot recoil multiplier, where it becomes a little bit tricky if you're not used to it. So when you want to do that, you just literally create a pattern in your brain. You're like, okay, first I'm going to drag down those first 2 shots a little bit harder than the rest, shoot the rest of the 3 shots by just dragging down slightly after that. And then when I restart, I'm going to do the whole routine again. Drag down 2 more times, a little bit faster, and then the rest of the magazine I can finish off slowly. So it's you just do this. You just practice this. And after a certain time, your recoil control will become virtually nothing. Like, your recoil will become nothing. Now, it is important to note that at lower FOVs, if you're on PC, you can, I forget what the default FOV on console is, but let's say it's 80, right? You can see your recoil control much more if you use a lower FOV. You'll be able to see the minor crosshair movements. You'll be able to see just everything. I played a little bit higher FOV so I can see targets to my left and right more, and so that when I'm just like shooting, I need to do a target swap. My brain's eye to monitor, I guess, coordination is set to around 100 FOV because of like Overwatch, and because I played at this FOV for such a long period of time that this is my muscle memory. My muscle memory would be a little bit off if I played at lower FOV, so that's why I play at that 100 FOV or so. But yeah, recoil control is pretty simple. You just need to practice it. You need to make sure that your timings are good. Literally just drag down more with the first couple bullets and then drag down slightly. Let me show you a gun with has a little bit different recoil control than, for example, the AEK. Now the ACWR, it kind of goes straight up too, but it ends up kind of going to the left. I do have the compensator on here, which kind of helps with that as well, but so you can drag down to the right a little bit. And then when you burst, you just, you know, it's the same pattern. Instead of going straight down, I'm going a little bit down to the right. And then, you know, this distance I can full auto, and then I'm bursting. And then that distance I'm definitely bursting. It's just getting into these, oh, I know what this weapon's recoil control is. Drag down the first couple bullets a little bit faster. Bam, recoil control. I haven't played FPSs in like 2 weeks because I've been busy with things, so my recoil control isn't 100% perfect as it was in some of the videos, but I'm trying my best here. But that's just, it's essentially, it's the same pattern, even with LMGs. All right, this gun is a little bit, you know, higher first shot recoil multiplier. You drag down even more. That's literally it. I mean, this is just recoil control. Making sure that you're bursting in between. When you burst, you drag down a bit more than normal. And that's it for you. So if you want to become a meta warrior, and you're wondering how you do it, this is how you do it. You practice this. You practice recoil control. Now, of course, you will notice that even if you drag down more the first couple of shots, your crosshair will go off into the left a little bit or off into the right a little bit. That's normal because this is random. It is a random first shot recoil multiplier. You don't know if it's going to kick up a lot or if it's going to kick up, you know, just a little bit. So you just kind of have to do an overall measure of, I know it's going to kick up more, so I got to compensate it for those first couple bullets, but you have no idea what it's going to be. So at extremely long ranges, if you're going for like headshots, you may not get it perfect, and no one is going to get it perfect. But your goal is to make it, you know, get all the human error out of the equation as possible. So hopefully I taught you something today. Hopefully you can go out there, practice this, go into test range, bring a friend along in a private server, practice shooting head glitches all the time. There are certain drills that you can do that with that maybe I'll go over if you guys request that. But it's a very simple technique. It's very useful though, and I think that everyone should learn it when they get into the game and use a new weapon. Just learn how it works, and you'll be out there dominating noobs. All right, thanks guys for watching, and I'll be back later. Peace.